The National Student Financial Aid Scheme has refuted claims that they are to blame for the death of eThekwini TVET college student Yonwaba Manyanya. In a statement, NSFAS said allegations that they delayed paying allowances to cover the cost of accommodation on time and that Manyanya suffered from fatigue and hunger while living on the streets as a consequence of this delay are factually incorrect. For more on this, as well as other issues surrounding funds disbursement, I'm joined by Mr. Kagisho Mamabolo, the spokesperson for NSFAS. Mr. Mamabolo, a very good afternoon to you. Perhaps let's start first with the issue of young Yonwaba and exactly what it is that happened there. A number of fingers are pointing to NSFAS for being behind this. You as NSFAS coming out saying, indeed, you are not. What is the situation there?
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting us. Indeed, as the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, we want to join many others who have sent their condolences to the family, and we would like to say that indeed we are saddened by her passing and actually the manner in which she has lost her life. Of course, we were as shocked as everybody was shocked, because we equally learned through social media that the student has since passed away. And unfortunately, a student who is in higher education is a student of NSFAS, mainly because majority of the students that are studying at universities and colleges are funded by NSFAS. However, it becomes difficult to immediately confirm a student that this indeed is a NSFAS funded student. So when we heard the news, the first thing that we had to do was to verify whether indeed this was a NSFAS student before we can even look at whether those circumstances that led to her death involved NSFAS, which we understand is an issue of the police. Our preliminary investigation revealed that this is not a NSFAS student for 2021, and unfortunately this student was not expecting any NSFAS funds for 2021.
And was that actually communicated to her? Did she know that she no longer qualified for NSFAS?
All our students that are admitted for the NSFAS program, they signed the agreement, which stipulates that there is a minimum requirement that a student must reach in order for the funding to continue. And most of our students do know that if they fail to meet the minimum progression requirement of NSFAS, the funding will fall off. And we do understand that all our students that are using our portal online and that have been funded by NSFAS all the time are quite familiar with the rules and the guidelines which governs the funding.
There's a distinction, Mr. Mamabolo, between them having been communicated to and them being quote-unquote aware. My question was she communicated to? Was there correspondence to the young lady that she no longer qualified for the NSFAS funding, which, according to reports, is what she had been waiting for in order to be able to pay her accommodation and to feed herself?
I can confirm that all the students that have progressed and are funded for 2021 received communication from NSFAS, including all the students that did not meet the requirement of NSFAS. They've been communicated to. There is also a live status update on the My NSFAS portal. At any given time, a student wants to know the latest status regarding their funding, the student can log online. I must emphasize here that it is important to know that for NSFAS to confirm, for NSFAS to confirm the funding, you are required to ensure that you meet the minimum requirement. And in this case, a college where the student is enrolled will send the information to NSFAS and say this student did not progress. Therefore, NSFAS will apply its rules. It may happen, and it does happen, and especially this year in 2021 with the academic year extended, that some universities and colleges only were able to conclude their final year results in March and in May, which then it means NSFAS would receive those results by then.
There's been an outpour of a response from social media with various students who started sharing their own personal experiences with NSFAS and the state of their education right now. Let's go through some of those messages that we retrieve from social media, Mr. Mamabolo, and let's engage regarding that. Let me start with the first one here. It comes from Mimi, who says, the same story with me, and I'm currently studying at UJ. Please note that your 2021 NSFAS funding is not yet approved. We're still resolving the 2020 claim for most of the students who are doing the same qualification are still not funded for 2021. So that there is in parenthesis. So she's quoting the fact that there has been correspondence saying that her 2021 funding is not yet approved and we're still resolving the 2020 claim for most of the students. So that's one of the mails. Let's go to the second one from Undile saying, it's so sad. I'm also going through the same thing. Worst part, I've passed all my modules last year with distinctions even. I'm not rejected by NSFAS, but I've not received any allowance because last year my fees were not paid. I messaged my NSFAS but got no response. Let's go to the next one here from Beatsy saying, I messaged them many times and they ended up saying they do not have any data of applying for the bursary, and I still don't get it because 2019 they paid for my fees. And another one here saying, I work in a psychiatric hospital and there's a 24-year-old who was admitted last week and diagnosed with depression after NSFAS decided they didn't want to fund her anymore. She is not the first. The last one for you, Mr. Mamabolo, is from Lisa saying, this was very difficult to read. I've been here, evicted, the starvation, the mental health issues from going through all of that, all because NSFAS decided to tell us mid-year they have shortages in funding and left millions of students destitute. Something has to change. A message from Lisa there. Mr. Mamabolo, very clear that what you are saying to us and the experiences of students on the ground, there's no connection between the two. Some of the allegations against you, fees not being paid on time, a lack of communication, no payments being made, and really not letting students know on time whether or not they qualify, and thus leading to psychiatric problems for the students. Talk to us about these complaints that we're hearing from the students, Mr. Mamabolo. First of all, the issues of fees from 2020 not being paid. What is happening there?
Thank you very much. It's always important to understand how the higher education sector works and where NSFAS fits into the value chain. So there's an obligation of NSFAS, there's an obligation of the university, and there's an obligation of a student. And first and foremost, in summarizing all the issues that you've raised, I must say that our new board of NSFAS and the new CEO have gone out publicly to say we can do better as a scheme. We can improve our system. We should improve our communication to the students. And as a new leadership of NSFAS, we will come back and say this is how we think we need to improve the entity that needs to be fit for purpose, that should take care of the rest of the things.
And when can I'll give you an opportunity, Mr. Mamabolo. I'm just going to wrap on this one. And when are we going to be hearing from the new leadership as to exactly what they're going to do? Because time here is of the essence. The students need this money now.
You will know that NSFAS has just come out of the administration, and the ministerial task team is also working on looking at whether the NSFAS model post-fee-free education is fit for purpose. That process is nearing an end. 2 weeks ago, we had a NSFAS board hosting the Parliament Oversight Committee to come and see the progress that has been made by a new leadership. So I'm saying there is a good progress. And I think to answer the question of saying there's no money for students, let me get to that one. all our students that are at universities whose registration data has been received by NSFAS, payment for those is being dispersed. We are also parallel to that process working on a new disbursement module that will ensure that students know that every particular day of the month they will get funding from NSFAS. That's what the new leadership is working on. And we have dispersed billions of rands to the universities and saying, for the last 2 months or for the next 2 months, do pay for these students while you are still preparing the registration data for them.
Mr. Mamabolo, unfortunately, Mr. Mamabolo, time is not on our side, but I do trust that we'll have an opportunity to take our conversation further in the next couple of days or so. But I thank you very much for your time and for giving clarity to some of those issues this afternoon. That's a spokesperson there for NSFAS, Mr. Kagisho Mamabolo.